Hello there, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Nomoi Bay. In today's episode we are creating a nocturnal habitat underground in our new cave system that we built last episode. Additionally, we are resolving one of our guests' biggest complaints and putting in a beachside bar. Stick around till the end for what's coming up next with Nomoi Bay, but first let's jump on into the speed build. Welcome to our speed build portion then. So we're going to start by cutting out a cave area just off the back of our Tasmanian devil habitat from last week's episode. It's going to have essentially a skylight coming down into the cave so that the Kiwis can choose to go into the sunlight should they wish. They are nocturnal animals, but depending on where you look, they are also somewhat active during the mornings and the evenings. So we're going to make this sort of skylight in, and then we're going to frame the entire habitat out with a variation of some of our mud walls, which we're just going to move a couple of those stalactites around just to randomize it up a bit. And what we also will do is bring a lot of the rock work that we've got in the rest of our cave system that this habitat is within, just so it all sort of blends in together. I'm going to jump past a lot of the rock work because there is a lot of it in this habitat. So you will sort of get an idea of how it is here, and then it's going to jump straight over to sort of fully built up. Unlike our previous wood walls, I'm also going to bring in some of these root systems. We are underground, so you would expect some of the plants from above to have their root systems reach this far down. We're not that far below the surface, so we've got some of them in there as well. Now, the habitat, although it is going to be underground, is going to simulate a sort of twilight area from their natural habitat in New Zealand. So we are going to plant it up quite lushly. As such, we will be using lights to sort of give reason as to why the plants survive that well in this cave. They also tend to inhabit a lot of wetlands, so we're going to make sort of a wetland lake area. Not really fed by a waterfall or anything, more just a sort of area that rainwater would collect. Obviously, having that open skylight there, you will get water into here. And in theory, it being a zoo, they would maintain that water level even in drier periods. So there we go, we're going to have one big tree just as a feature for the habitat here, and the rest of it is going to be very much brackish plants like bracken and ferns, and sort of just a bit more coverage to stop there being a whole load of bare rock around the habitat. And we're still using the coastal pig face for our Oceania habitats. It's a lovely plant. It sort of blends together. You can drop it into the floor quite well. And then you've got these lovely pink flowers that just add a little bit of detail to it. Really, really nice plant. We'll probably end up using that in some of our tropical areas as well. And there we go. A couple more bushes, a couple more plants. As I say, I want it to be very, very lush. Give them a lot of hiding areas. Then we're going to build in our glass. So we've got some one-way glass down the back end there, and that's just so that they don't feel overlooked all the time. And then we've gone to the more clear glass as the light within the habitat gets a bit more. We're using the path trick for popping down a forage feeder in the center here. So if you don't know what that is, if you put a path down and then put a enrichment item on top, it will stop that enrichment item moving the terrain underneath it and flattening it out, which stops it ruining your lovely made terrain deformities just by placing down some enrichment items. Now, you don't actually end up seeing this from inside, but I thought I'd put it on anyway, and that is a mesh sort of netting over the top of that skylight. Mainly just to stop animals getting in from above, birds, etc. And also stop things falling into the habitat, just helps out with the cleaning. So all this is the new netting from the Oceania pack, and then we've just basically turned it into a sort of grey and white colouring. As you can see there, we've also popped in some fairly large red skylights, and as per my latest tips video, if you want to make them less bright and less vivid, if you change the colour of the light to just a darker colour, it also dims the light. So we've done that here with these, so it's not too bad. And there we go. We've got a total of 4 in here. I wanted to cover all the areas, and then the ones that are directly in the light turn off during the day, whereas the ones further back in the cave remain on all the time. And then just to finish up, we're putting down some decals. So I do love putting decals into these habitats. This here just to add a little layer of sort of darkened texture where the water meets the beach or the sort of edge of the water area, just to give you that sort of scum and grime that builds up around there. Now, this is a fairly small habitat for today. My original plan, as of last week's episode, was to get our little blue penguin habitat sorted out for today as well. However, that's turned into a much more ambitious idea that is going to take up pretty much a whole video on its own. But I also wanted to, alongside the penguins, get in our our visitor entrance to the zoo. And that's going to be our jetty system, where the cruise ships will drop their passengers off and they'll come in via little tender boats into our bay. So I want to get all that sorted next episode. So I thought if we get the Kiwi out the way now, and we'll do a little bit of visitor attraction stuff and some franchise, then we can spend more time on that next episode. So moving on now to our visitor area. So this is going to be mainly for drinks and seating area, and I wanted that sort of beachside bar feel. So we're going to have a bit of a centerpiece bar area, which we're going to use to house our drinks shops. And we're using the good old mud column trick to make a lovely circular, I guess you could call it a circular parasol covering. I'm not entirely sure what you'd refer to it as. It doesn't provide that much cover. But this was inspired by a bar over in LA, which I found while looking at beach bars for Indonesia and Bali. And it has this very sort of tree-like feel to it, with these sort of baskets hanging off the underside. So I thought I'd do a smaller version of that, and we're just going to use that rotation trick there to get us a nice circular setup. Now what I've done is I've staggered the lampshades largely so that when you're rotating them, they don't then clip into each other. So you should find that none of them are clipped together. And what you'll see on the cinematics here is that some of these also then have LED tubes in them, so you get a nice bit of ambient lighting off them. Now for its trunk, we're going to use the strangler fig roots, and we're just going to rotate those into each other to make a nice thick knotted tree trunk. And then we're going to grab that, rotate it around, stitch it on top of itself, and that then forms a nice little base for this to sit on top of. And it actually links up really well once you get it central. It took a bit of fiddling, but once it was central, looked really good. Now for around the bottom, we're going to do a bar area. So again, same trick with the mud column. We're just going to build ourselves a little plaster wall with a wooden countertop that we can merge our shop counters into, so that they look like they're working out of the bar. And then we're just going to place that around our canopy, make ourselves a little entrance area on the side here, as you can see. Just going to finish that off, just the little finishing details. Now I may end up actually decorating this a bit further next episode, and what I'm planning on doing is potentially a live stream of just finishing up the beach, getting all the planting done, getting all the resort bits done, all the bits that don't directly impact the zoo but are very much about the background area. So do keep an eye up. I will pop a community post up if we go down the route of live streaming. If you'd be interested in seeing that, let me know in the comments, because it's something I've always thought about doing, but then kind of sort of shied away thinking there wasn't enough content for it. But the tidy up parts can take a couple of hours, and there's a lot of little things to do. So if I can have some company while I do that, I'm not going to say no. Now as we move into the final stretch of this speed build here, we have our fences. So we're just going to run a fence all the way around this area, so that people don't fall off and into the water. And it's a fairly simple fence. Again, a lot of the fences that I like to use tend to be fairly simple. I don't want them to take away from what they're showcasing or what they're protecting from. I'd rather they just sort of be there and be fairly functional. So we've got this wooden fence that we're essentially just going to keep copying and run it all the way around, so it's nice and secure. And I won't make you watch me move each one into place. We're going to jump instead straight over to the next part, which is just getting our tables down. Now what I did was get all the tables in the game, put them all in a line, and picked a few I liked. So we're using the Indian circular table and the Indonesian dining table, and I've basically just gone through and matched their textures to the same colour red as these Indonesian benches, which I thought were very nice for drinks areas. Considered using this canopy, but it worked out a bit big for a coffee table. So instead, I think we end up using a drum in the end. And then there was also the mad search for something that I could use as floor coverings. So there's plenty of fabric things in the game, but there's very few that could be used really well as rugs. And as you can see here, it's just a case of going through different keywords in my head, seeing what happens if we change the color, See if we can get it matching up. This tile would have worked. Unfortunately, the white bits you can't get rid of. And I think, yeah, I ended up using, should be coming up fairly shortly. I ended up using just a piece of fabric merged into the ground. And once it was coloured the right sort of colour scheme, it tends to work really well. And I'm really happy with it. But it has sort of prompted me to sort of, I guess, use them more as we build. So you'll find a lot more of these fabrics coming into things as we go along with the further areas of the zoo. There we go, just rolling through, trying to match that yellow actually was the challenge. And then we're just going to place down these benches as sort of social seating. As you'll see in the franchise mode run through just after this speed build, they don't really use all of these tables, which is a shame. And I'm hoping once we get a few more food and drinks places set down on the lead up to this area, that they might opt to come up here to eat and drink. Right now, they kind of just use the ones around the entrance, which is, as I say, it's a shame. But it would have been nice if I could see this fully packed out. And I'm going to keep looking at ways of getting there with it. There we go. The drum table is in, and then we're just going to duplicate that a couple of times just to give ourselves. I was going to do a lot more. I decided, no, we'll just do 2 or 3 areas down this side, just because, again, I don't see people using this very often. Okay, that's us coming towards the end of our speed build here. I'm going to get some plants done. I'm going to get some lighting put in, and then we'll join myself again shortly in our live view. And here we are in our sort of drinks area. As you can see, at night time, nicely lit, candles everywhere. I've popped down some plants in vases. We've got a couple of sunshades going on. Really happy with this area. As I said in the speed build there, my only one complaint... Oh, that is very loud water. Let's move away from that. My only one complaint is that they don't use all the tables, which is a shame. The only ones I've really seen them using has been this front area here. Quick jump over to our new Kiwi exhibit then, Habitat. I will get round to labelling these correctly. So as we fly over across here, we'll go into our cave. Really happy with the lighting in here. Really happy with sort of how it's set out. We've got a little coffee shop there and a toilet because they were moaning there was no toilet. I've popped the Kiwi into our work zone, so hopefully these guys should be looked after. And as you can see there, through its little skylight, it still gets some rain coming in. I think, let's just check. Oh, we've got a... Oh, it's on. I just don't know why it's so black. That's weird. Let's go have a look. So let's jump on in. Here's one of the little dudes. He's the baby. I believe my female actually was expecting another baby. That's the male. Without knowing it, I unexpectedly got an albino male. Didn't choose an albino male, but that's what turned up. And oh, you must have had your as a baby then. We're not happy with the enrichment either. That's fine. I have got to research all of the new enrichment bits for the Kiwi here. It's so dark in here at night, and I am so lost as to where the door is. It's over here. There it is. How many animals have we got in here? Oh, it has. Oh, okay. We have 2 babies. That's interesting. So you're down there. Okay. Really happy with this, actually. I was planning on doing, as I say, the much larger habitat for the penguins, but that's going to be next episode because I have such plans for that one that I thought it deserves its own episode. So yeah, a quick update on the franchise side of things. So our wombats, who I assume are all in their burrow, given it's raining. Ooh, that was a bit quick. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Our wombats have had another baby. And much like the previous baby, when he grows up, we'll have to trade him away, unfortunately. But they're quite happy. Still got a few years left on this pair. The dingoes have been breeding like dingoes, who are, again, I assume most of them are inside. But we have a lot of puppies. Really, absolutely adore these dingoes. They are still my favourite animals so far in this zoo. They've got this habitat that can take many, many more dingoes. And as they're just amazing. They're just amazing. So yeah, they're doing really well. And then finally our quokkas, which are still all over in our quokka trail, are still breeding consistently. There we go. Another one just about to pop out some more babies. As soon as we get our outback habitat sorted, we're going to start moving a large amount of them over there. But I'm still really pleased with this walkthrough habitat. It's very basic. It's very simple, but I think it works really well. And it's the sort of place that I would spend hours upon hours if we had one in a zoo that I could get to. So yeah, happy with it so far. Just a quick overview for you guys in case you didn't see it in episode 3. We have started building out the beach area. The plans for where to go next with this area here is going to be relaxing sun lounges and tiki bars. We're going to have a food court area here, a restaurant built around this lake, and our main entrance where our visitors will arrive from their cruise ships on little tender boats. I'm hoping to get all of that bunged into next episode, as well as our walk through ocean path that's going to go through the ocean around our penguin habitat, which is going to be in this corner here. And once they're done, that will be the beach finished for a while before we then move on up to this area up here, which will be our outback walk and drive-through exhibit habitat, not an exhibit. And then this stuff area here is going to become our main in and out route for the rest of the island, and it's also going to feature a veterinary hospital before we move over into Indonesia in this area, where I already am planning a magnificent saltwater crocodile habitat. As an aside on that, with the 4th anniversary event, despite all of the things going on, I believe, yep, we did get a saltwater crocodile as part of that. And we've also somehow picked up a Galapagos and a flamingo. So the saltwater crocodile albino as well. Wow, that's brilliant. So we're going to have to make a nice little home for him to live in. So they're the next couple of episodes planned. If you enjoyed today, let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button. I will be back next week with another episode of Nomoi Bay. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you know when that comes out. I hope you enjoyed it all, and I will see you next time.